Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the Open Forum podcast. Today, I'm fortunate enough to be joined by a US Navy veteran and recipient of the Bronze Star Medal, Philip Tourney, one of the few remaining survivors of the documented attack on US military Navy personnel by Israel on June the 8th in 1967, where 171 Americans were injured and 34 murdered, out of a total of just under 300 men. And I don't say killed in action because, as you'll find out, as we're going to go on to discuss, there was no action in the typical sense of the word. The Liberty was not at war as it pertains to a traditional military conflict. In fact, it's specifically labelled as unexpected and unprovoked in the citation for Philip's receipt of the aforementioned medal. Philip, that's a brief 20 to 30 seconds as to who you are. You were one of the men on board the USS Liberty. Why don't you take a minute or two, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we're just going to dive on in to the topic of today. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Sonny. I appreciate the invite, to get the word out. There's not a whole lot about me. I was born in 1946 in Denver, and I was doing construction work with my dad. I quit school in the 7th grade. And then from there, I joined the Navy, and that was in 1964. I was 17 years old because I wanted to serve my country. Vietnam was going on, and they needed people. So I joined up, and it turned out to be the best thing I ever did in my life. Even though I've been tested, and I've been lucky enough to, I got a beautiful family. Lisa's my wife, and 4 or 5 kids, a lot of grandkids, too many to mention. But yeah, I'm an author. I do a lot of interviews about the USS Liberty. I am the current president of the USS Liberty. This is the Veterans Association. This is my 4th go around as president. So I'm very active in trying to warn the American people and around the world about what happened in 1967 aboard the USS Liberty, a ship that has gone down in history as a mistaken identity. I know we're going to get into that, Sonny. So that's all about me, I guess.
Right. As we're already there, you were on board the USS Liberty. Now, the USS Liberty was, at that point in time, in 67, the most sophisticated spy ship of its ilk. You guys were stationed over in Africa, and then all of a sudden, start of June, you guys received orders in the middle of the night to, off your trot, get your butts over to the Med, over off the coast of the Sinai. Following that is, I suppose, the bigger topic, the bigger issue of today. Can you maybe talk to us about June the 8th, what it was that happened, and sort of what it is that brings us here today? And like you mentioned, your warning to both the American people and people across the world as to what happened to you as it was sanctioned by the US government and the Israeli government.
Yes, on June 8th, 1967, it was actually a normal day for us. We knew there was a war going on. We could see the bombs hitting on the shore. We were 12.5 miles off the coast. We had been surveilled over and over again by Israeli aircraft, clearly marked with the Star of David. They flew around us, they flew over us and across us. There was no mistaking our identity, and we waved at them, they waved back. So we felt safe because our best buddies in the whole wide world were there. Our allies, Israel. We thought we were denied destroyer escort by the Navy, that we didn't need anybody with us. We're alone in the middle of a war zone, and they leave us out there alone.
From my understanding, when it was requested by your ship's captain, you guys were told that, you'll be in international waters. You're clearly labeled as an American ship. And I think that's also very, very important to point out. You guys had your flags up. You guys were clearly labeled as an American ship, right? It wasn't that you guys were there as a clandestine ship hiding in the cover of night. No?
No, we were very well marked. Everybody knew who we were. The Navy knew where we were. Israel certainly knew where we were. Clandestine, no. USS Liberty on the stern, AGTR 5 on the front of the ship, great big 10-foot letters, and our American flag flying. So no, there was not clandestines about anything. Yeah, we were a spy ship, but that's what spies do. They pick up signals out of the air just like everybody else does.
Yeah. And that's what you guys were tasked essentially to do, right? To sit off the edge, listen into what was going on, and pass on any pertinent information back over to the Pentagon, which I'm sure at that point in time would have been shared across to Israeli intelligences. Like you say, Israel were buddies of the US government and America. Why would you not share that information if and when something presented that might be relevant?
Oh, absolutely. I really can't explain the feeling a person has. Uh, well, especially what's going on now. But back then, uh, maybe this is too much off topic. I just keep on going through this in my mind. Is that how any government or two governments can
Collude.
concoct, yeah, concoct and collude uh, something so vile and evil is beyond me. To have your own fellow Americans executed by our assassins, Israel, and you got to live with that. But the American public doesn't know about it because it's been hidden. There's a mistaken identity, no way.
I think then it's important to then press on as to what happened next. So far as you guys were concerned, you were there off the coast of the Sinai. Israel had started the Six-Day War. They bombed the Egyptian airstrips. They'd been a couple of days now into the war, and you guys thought, hey, our friends are above. They're there. If anything happens, okay, we don't have a destroyer class vessel by us, but Israel know we're here. If Egypt or Iran or Iraq or someone tries to start trouble, we've got cover. And then more planes came by.
More dangerous planes.
Yeah, a little bit closer on the flyby, shall we say.
Yes, a lot closer. Mirage and Mystere jets. Blackened out.
So no
Couldn't tell where
markings.
they're from. Yeah. We thought they were Egyptian or somebody. Certainly not Israel, and so this went on for about 25 minutes. Help was finally got out.
Wait, what was going on for 25 minutes?
Murder and mayhem and destruction that's so hard to even describe. They took out every watertight door on that ship. We had 450 caliber machine guns. They were gone in the first second or two. Every tuning antenna on that ship, and we had a lot of them, was taken out because they were online. So we had no way of getting the message out to anybody, and nobody's coming to help us.
No way to defend yourself then if your machine guns were taken out. It's not a battleship, so those four machine guns were all you had.
That's it. What they were intended for, Sonny, is to be like repel borders, or some pirates are trying to take over, something to that effect. Or if you're in port, you can protect your ship. But th- they were taken out anyway in the first pass. So it wouldn't have been any good if you could even get off a shot. Jet aircraft. These guys are coming in low and hot, and rockets and napalm. They napalmed our ship. That's a war crime. There were many war crimes committed in that 25 minutes, and it wasn't over for another hour and a half.
What would be the purpose of setting napalm onto the ship?
That would be certainly one reason, is to burn us all up, uh, get the calm out. The heart of the ship was in the mind of the captain, and he controlled it. If they would have taken the bridge out, which was intended, uh, that would have happened. In fact, I was up there trying to put out fire from that napalm, and hey, man, you couldn't do it. Just couldn't. We had no firefighting equipment capable of that anyway. All of our hoses were shot up by the Israelis. We had nothing to fight fires with except CO2.
It's not going to
It's
do the
bad.
trick. So you've had these planes going, the jets going overhead for 20 to 25 minutes. They've shut up the radar antennas. There's no way for you guys to get a message out. They've shot up your only line of defense, as it were, given the fact that it's not a warship. They have prevented you guys from being able to run out any repairs, considering, the deck's on fire. There's napalm there. It's not going to be possible for people to go scaling up and down the radar antennae, the radar arrays, to be able to patch something up. But at this point in time, there's something else quite interesting going on, because despite the fact that you guys haven't identified who it was that was flying the jets, there were two things. One, the US had already scrambled jets to go out to a foreign nation. And the other thing is, the signal was being jammed. Any signal that you guys could have put out was being jammed. And that can only be done if someone knows who you are and knows what frequencies you're going to be operated on, right? So you would assume that that's going to be an ally.
Oh, absolutely. The only reason we got a warning out that we were in trouble is Terry Haldebardier hooked up an antenna that was taken offline. It wasn't tuning. It wasn't sending out any heat. That's the only reason it didn't get hit. He ran a cable, coaxial cable, that they got Rockstar Intertech by unknown jet aircraft. Okay, when this happened, Captain Tully got the word, and he sent aircraft to us immediately. Before they even hit the horizon, they were recalled by Washington. Return to ship. Do not help Liberty.
Who can do that? Did Captain Tully recall it himself?
No, no, it was recalled by McNamara the first time.
Robert McNamara, who is that for those that might be unfamiliar with the US government as it was in 67?
Robert McNamara at the time was the Defense Secretary of the United States, very high position, and he recalled the aircraft to come help us. Captain Tully refigured more aircraft and sent them out again to help us. Return to base, return to base. And he says, I want to go to higher authority. And that was the president. He says, return those GD airplane right now. I could care less about a few dead sailors. I will not embarrass my ally Israel.
President Johnson just said he didn't care about a few dead sailors and he didn't want to embarrass his ally, Israel. two things. Like I say, at this point, you guys hadn't identified anybody. The only thing that you'd managed to get out was a distress call. And secondly, what does the president mean that the lives of his people are unimportant? How can you reconcile that?
Sonny, I wish I could answer that. I guess as a person with no soul, with no moral compass, and power is all they want. It's basically the same thing that's going on right now. Our country's in a turmoil like you can't believe. And if people would just listen, the USS Liberty is a lesson. They did it to us. They can do it again, one way or another. However it happens, it's going to benefit Israel. It's not going to benefit the United States one bit. And I don't want to see any of my fellow Americans die spilling their blood for the Zionist state of Israel. They've been using us forever. We're nothing but a piggy bank and a crying towel for Israel. And I'm done with it. USS Liberty Veterans Association is done with it.
I want to come back to what you said there, the notion of the US are nothing more than a piggy bank for the nation state of Israel, as I think that's very important when it comes to talking about one, Israel then coming to terms with the fact that something had happened. Okay, there was this mistaken identity. We're going to come to that. But before we get there, you said that the jets going by lasted for about 20 to 25 minutes. However, it went on for another hour and a half after that. What exactly happened after the jets had gone by? And at this point, I also want to reinforce the point that whilst Johnson had said he doesn't want to embarrass Israel when telling Tully to recall those planes, you guys on the Liberty had yet to identify that there were Israeli jets or that Israel was involved with this at all. So what happened following the jets going? So they left you guys after 25 minutes.
They did, Sonny, and I do want to say the USS America launched two, and never called back. So 2 aircraft carriers, they called them all back. And here we go. We see these torpedo boats coming at us, and they had the Star of David on them. So we knew it was Israel coming to help us. We were ecstatic. Help was on the way. Because personally, I thought we were already in World War III, and we're just one ship out of a huge armada in American naval power. And I thought, well, they just don't have time to come help us. But here comes our buddies, Israel.
Reasonable.
They weren't, yeah, absolutely. That's exactly the way I felt. And they weren't coming there to help us. They were coming there to murder the rest of us. And they got in a torpedo attitude, as our captain said, Captain McGonigal, and they fired 5 torpedoes at us.
5 torpedoes. So in all this time, how close were they getting to be firing off these torpedoes? Could they have identified who you were? Could they have known who you guys were? Let's not
Oh
downplay
yeah,
it. Yeah.
yeah, no, absolutely. They knew who we were. They were 1,000 yards out. They saw our flag flying. We had a 7x13 holiday colors. They shot 2 5x8 flags down. The last flag we had was a holiday colors, 7x13. They said they couldn't see any markings aboard our ship. And then they said, well, we didn't get the orders not to attack soon enough because they were rerouted or something. I mean, there's an excuse for everything, isn't there? But the excuses they used murdered 25 more of my shipmates, blew them to bits. It picked that ship up and blew it, picked it up and slammed it back down in the water. And then it was going over to the right. That'd be the starboard side. I thought it was going to roll over, and it just stopped. Nothing else. We were about, I don't know, 10, 12 degrees list, 8, 10, 12. It was a lot. But here our shipmates are down there dead. And that wasn't good enough. This went on and on and on with the torpedo boats firing at us, shooting everything that moved, firefighters, stretcher bearers, everybody, including me. Anybody who's trying to help were targets, and they enjoyed it. There was 174 wounded and 34 dead out of a crew of 294. We put over life rafts over the side. We had 3 left out of a crew for 294. Only 3 of them were left because they shot or burned up the rest of them. We put them over the side to put our most seriously wounded in them. And there was a lot of bad seriously wounded, I want to tell you. Guess what Israel does? They shoot our life rafts out of the water.
That's
They
also a
take
war crime.
absolutely war crime after war crime. They shoot 2 of them out of the water and take one. They took one aboard their boat to Haifa as a trophy of their kill. This went on for 2 hours with no help coming to us. Help didn't arrive to us for 17 hours when they were there. The American government didn't even send over a Piper Cub to see how we were doing for 17 hours. And nighttime has nothing to do with it. You don't think these pilots learn how to fly at night? These jet pilots? And they left us out there alone. Another stab in the back. I mean, we took it hard. It wasn't right.
You've had to relive this multiple times. It's unfortunate, but you guys are the only people that are advocating for yourselves. And unfortunately, it didn't stop at the torpedo boats. It didn't stop at the 850 odd rounds that were spent on the ship, the armor piercing bullets that were used, the fire hoses that were shot up to the point where you guys couldn't put out the napalm. The fact that people who were going out to help other soldiers, which is one of the things mentioned in the citation for your medal, putting others above yourself, going into the line of fire to get your crewmates back into safety. That all wasn't enough. After the torpedo boats had left you guys alone, where after multiple attempts to sink you, for whatever reason, by God's good graces, you guys were still afloat. Despite the fact that you were tilted, you guys were still afloat. Something else came your way. So we're talking about the 3rd wave now. It's a movie at this point. It's a video game, wave after wave. You're on the 3rd wave now of an Israeli assault force. What did they have next in store?
Oh, the last part is always the best part sometimes. But there were helicopters with Israeli Marines ready to board our ship, either by ladder or rope, and finish us off. They'll scuttle the ship and kill us all. That was the plan. But all of a sudden, they got orders, return to base, return to base. What they did, Sonny, they fessed up too soon. It was them. If they just never said a word, they would have still they would have scuttled us. They'd have done it. But the word was out that Israel's were the bad guys, and then the story come up of mistaken identity. But no, they came there, the murderers on the 3rd wave, and then they sent a helicopter over from the attaché in Israel, Commander Castle and dropped a sack with an orange in it, with a card in it. And it says, "Have you casualties?" The whole ship is full of blood and you can't see. And then you ask us a stupid question like that. The old man told him, "Get the hell away from my ship. We don't want any help from you."
There's a certain level of psychopath that you have to be to first shoot up the ship and then come back pretending to be an innocent in all of this, dropping a business card. Have you any casualties? It's disgusting. It's abhorrent. But we shouldn't be surprised. We shouldn't be surprised. This is the kind of behavior that the IDF have exhibited since before Israel was even a state. War crime after war crime, as you mentioned. Yeah, you can go back to the King David Hotel bombings, the bombings in US and British embassies, the fact that Israel had on multiple occasions, I forget which president it was around the 1947, 1948, but they'd also attempted on multiple occasions to send letter bombs to the president who was alive then. You guys are there. You've had 3 waves of attack. For whatever reason, the ship's still up. What happens next? Who comes in to save you guys? Who comes in to help you guys at this point?
17 hours after the attack, the USS America and support ship, USS Little Rock, USS Davis, USS Massey, and then we had a fleet tug behind us, the USS Papago.
Wait, 17 hours. That means you guys were stranded at night as well, as you'd already mentioned. And that means that you guys were stuck in the pitch black in the middle of the sea where anything could happen.
Thought it would happen. I mean, it was the best chance
Yeah.
for them. If they wanted to do it, that would have been their best deal. But, God saved that ship.
You guys have survived all 3 waves. You're doing your best to look after your wounded in whatever way, shape, or form that you guys can at that point in time. You guys are doing your best to keep the ship up. Is there any way for you guys to defend yourself at this point? We know that the machine guns are gone. Is there anything on that ship that is designed to be on its own, that is designed to just listen into other communications, whereby if something was to happen, there might be some way, shape, or form for the men that are still standing, still able to do something on the Liberty, to be able to defend the Liberty? Or were you guys purely just sitting ducks for that period of time?
We were just sitting ducks. We had small arms, but that's sitting ducks. I mean, we had no idea why, but we found out soon after Admiral Kidd got aboard our ship.
So this is the next day, 17 hours later.
No, it was about a day after that. But the America, they went and evacuated all the wounded and the dead that were above deck, and there was a lot of them. I mean, when they took everybody off, there was only a skeleton crew, basically, and I was one of them. I was walking wounded. I got wounded, but thankfully, hey, I'm here.
Still
And
mobile.
yeah, and it just, but no, we felt bad enough, but we were glad to see America finally come help us. I mean, I don't blame the Navy. I blame the leaders. It's always the leadership. The Navy, some of the pilots have said they were sickened by what happened. They couldn't come help us. Captain Tully lost his job. He was a World War II ace pilot, and they fired him because he sent aircraft to come help us. not once but twice.
Your own government sets you up, and the people that tried to help you lost their job. The people that did their job lost that position. US that was Captain Tully, the head of the USS Saratoga, right? And then
Yes.
there are also some stories that I've heard of the men that came to help you guys. Some of them would burst into tears after seeing what they had seen, the devastation that was on the ship, that was there, that you guys were left with overnight to the next day, and then forced to limp to a port that was, is it 1,000 miles away from where you were?
Yes, 1,000 miles away. We could have went to Crete, but that was too close. I guess we were still hoping we would sink going to Malta. Hey, here we are out in the middle of the ocean, going 1,000 miles an hour. I mean, 1,000 miles from Malta. We're doing about 5 knots with a 40 by 40-foot hole in the side of the ship.
Jesus. Impressive. It is impressive. The engineers did a good job keeping you guys up.
Oh, it's just, yeah, it's crazy.
I was thinking about this. It just goes to show the level of engineering that went into stuff way back when. Like things were made to last back in the day. It's not just the saying, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. And but so I give all credit to the grace of God. He's the one that got us there, brought us back, and that's why I'm doing this right now. Is because I've got to. I'm going to do it to the day I have a last breath. You
So,
know,
well,
when somebody puts a gun to your head and pulls the trigger over and over again, and it doesn't go off, it still pisses you off. And to have the hitman not do the hit, and then they pay the hitman that didn't get the hit done more money than they ever got in the world. They paid Israel more money than they ever got for killing American servicemen on the high seas. That's what happened.
like I said, we're going to come to that because I think you've already alluded to the present day and the situation now. So I think it's more pertinent that we get onto that together there. But you mentioned Admiral Kidd coming on board. I believe that was when you guys had docked in Malta.
No, he came
No?
to aboard us before we got to Malta
Okay.
at sea. He got to us from sea. Uh, he was transported over to us. He was the uh, officer in charge of the Board of Inquiry, along with Ward Boston. He was the judge advocate. He's a captain. They interviewed us. In fact, there was 4 or 5 of us together at one time in the sick bay, and he says, "Listen, I want to listen to you guys, and just tell me, please, what happened. I want to get to the bottom of this, and see what we can do." So he took his stars off his lapel, threw them on the table, and they rang out like a bell. He says, "Listen, I'm just like your dad now. Talk to me like you're my son. Tell me the way you feel." We all did. And I asked the Admiral, I said, "Admiral, how come you never sent help to us? Or somebody didn't send help to us? You know, uh, why would you leave us out there like that alone?" I saw him shooting the life rafts. I saw so much aboard that ship. And he didn't want to hear it. He put his stars back on. He says, "Now I'm an admiral again. And I want to tell all you SOBs to never repeat a thing you said to me to anybody, especially the press, your family members, or anybody." He looked at me and he got beet red, Sonny. He looked right in my face and he says, "You will get punishment of fines imprisonment, or worse. You know what worse means? I said, yes, sir, I do.
What were they alluding to when they say worse?
Well, I guess it would be like the guillotine, man. I'd get it one way or the other because I knew exactly what worse meant. They were going to kill me.
I wanted to come onto this later, but seeing as we're there, have you had any threats to your life? Because you've been speaking out now for a few decades. And there are stories here and there. What has anything ever happened to yourself or to people that you know?
Yeah, what happened to myself, there's been several things. My lug nuts came off my truck.
But
Bar barely made it over to the side. I was with my son, and he was driving. And I said, "Man," he said, "Dad, something's wrong here." And then the wheels were coming off the front. We barely got over to the side, and there they come off. And hell, we were cruising. We were doing 55, 60. And about no, more than that, 10 years ago. See, no, it's been 15 years ago. We were in San Diego, California, uh, there to visit my son. We were at a restaurant. We were at the bar getting drinks till we got a table. And this guy got up on the right side of me. He says, "Oh, you were aboard the USS Liberty, huh?" And I said, "Yeah, how'd you know that?" He says, there's a lot of things that about the USS Liberty that must be left alone. I said, "Oh, okay." And he had a great big watch on his hand. It looked like a great big camera or whatever. And I told him, I said, "Get that thing out of my face." And then he proceeded to give me really a ration of shit. And that I said, "What are you, Mossad or what?" He says, "Yeah, I'm Mossad. I'm just telling you here, I'm warning you. Best thing for you to do is shut up." My wife hears all this stuff, and she lit up like a
that's
candle, and it cussed him out every which way. And then security had to take us up to our hotel rooms to make sure we got up there okay. I checked with the bar manager the next day, and that guy has been coming into the bar saying he was a doctor for several days even before we got there. How did he know we were going to that place, that particular bar, and how did he know we were in San Diego? So yeah, I got the word about the USS Liberty right then. But there's, hey, listen, uh, I'm almost 80 years old. If they kill me, there's enough tape on me. They can't destroy all of me.
no, absolutely not, sir.
So, uh, no, I mean it's my duty as an American. It's my duty as a citizen of the world to warn people about things that are about to come. And I'm not a nut. I'm not anti anything. I'll tell you that I'm not. I'm pro-life, and I'm against genocide. I'm against war in all fashions.
That was 67. So we're talking 57 years ago now that that happened. Did you did you talk about it immediately afterwards, or did you stick to what was asked of you? What talk us through the thought process. When did you start speaking out about this and why?
That's that's a very good question, and I remember every minute of it. Uh, to be honest with you, I put it out of my mind uh, because I couldn't go anywhere with it. There was nothing I could do. I felt alone. I mean, just alone. because I had no contact with my other shipmates or anything like that, and that was planned. So I met my wife. We've been married 41 years now, and I read an article in a newspaper, the Rocky Mountain News. It's no longer available now; it's out of business. But in Denver, Colorado, there's an article in there about the USS Liberty, written by Stan White, and he was a Master Chief spy aboard the ship. He was an E9 spy. I said, my, if he could start speaking out, I'm going to start speaking out because I had a lot to say. And I never told my wife I'd been in the military. And it came as shock to her that here I am already now an advocate for the USS Liberty. And she, from that moment on, she helped me with everything. She'd do science for me, everything. And she's been my rock ever since.
So it took a little while for you to start speaking out, but
20, it took me almost 20 years.
that's a long time to hold on to it all. And like you say, by design, you guys were all separated. So none of you guys had contact in the interim, not even with your captain or anything, Captain McGonagall.
No, I didn't. Not until I read that letter and I heard there was a association. And from that moment on, I was hooked. It was my mission to tell my story and stand up for the crew, the men that didn't make it that day. Man, they were executed. They were assassinated by Israel with the blessings of the United States of America. And man, that is the way any country should run. Or that you don't treat people that way. You just don't do it. They've ruined more than just the men who were killed lives that day. They've ruined their parents' lives. They've ruined their brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles' lives. You know, it's just they just didn't kill them. They killed a lot of people.
You guys were sent there for one purpose and one purpose only. And but with all due respect, what evidence do we have here that there was some collusion between the US and Israel? Or is it just you and I, yeah, talking out of our asses, as it were? Is it just you and I speculating? Is there some kind of evidence there that we can see? Yeah,
Uh,
there's more
oh
than a few.
yeah, we got all the evidence you need. Uh, go to usslibertyveterans.org. You'll get all the evidence you want from Admiral Moore, the most senior admiral, longest lasting admiral in the United States Navy, former chief of Joint Chiefs of Staff. He says the attack was a deliberate attack. They call it the Moore Report. Uh, there's so many other documents and evidence that we've gotten without the help of the United States government that proves that Israel and the United States of America, Johnson, and go to the website. I'm not going to quote them all. There's too many. You go to the website and you'll hear all about it. You can read all about it. It's all the truths and facts. We don't lie. We wouldn't be doing this if we were liars. We're not going to put our reputation or our lives or our families' lives or anything above a reputation. We're telling the truth, and people should listen to us. We're not here to hate. We're here to help you.
So this happens. What did Israel say happened? Because by this point, like you said, yeah, Israel, they came quote unquote clean about being the bad guy there. What was their reasoning? What was the explanation that they gave to the American government that made the American government go, oh, okay, no problem. You lads from the Liberty, keep it zipped.
Well, it's so ridiculous to even repeat it. but they said they thought they were attacking the El Quasir, a horse transport that was almost sunk in an Egyptian port. I mean, uh, whatever port it was. I can't remember what it was. Oh, Alexandria. And the United States government bought it because the Board of Inquiry said that's what happened. So the lid was on, the cover up was on, but it was a mistaken identity, which nothing could be farther from the truth.
Can you think of any other examples as a military man yourself where the court of inquiry bought wholesale the answer that was provided to them by the enemy? And just so people can get their minds around this, it would be like an attack by Al Qaeda on 9/11 and them giving the United States government their version of events of, oh, we thought these were buildings that were attacking us, and then going, oh, okay, no problem. Right? This would be the equivalent of what we're talking about, where the US Court of Inquiry takes wholesale the answer provided to them by the people committing the attack. Are there any other examples that you can think of that this has happened?
Oh man, I have to go back 200,000 years. No, there's nothing like this. You know, they took the word of our attackers over the word of American servicemen. Then they hushed us up. I mean, how how blatant can this be? In a 7 days, they had the Board of Inquiry done, and they said it was mistaken identity and told us to shut our mouth. And then Israel paid $6 million for a $40 million ship, and most of the crew got $250, and that was it. $250.
Might get you a new uniform.
Yeah, that's it. But you know, the government. I don't think Israel ever paid a dime. I think our own government paid it for them.
But this is where I wanted to come back onto the idea of the piggy bank element of things, because, yeah, doesn't the US taxpayer give Israel 3.5, is it million or billion every year? So even when you look at that, Israel probably could have just said, oh, keep the change.
Oh, absolutely. That's a true story, and that's it's been going on that way for so long. I mean, listen, we, is there anybody else in the world that supports a foreign government that murders Americans and gets them into wars all over the country, all over the world, than Israel?
I
It's
can't
not the
think of it.
people. It's not the people of Israel. It's not the. It's not. I'm not anti-Jewish. I'm not anything like that. The point is, our leadership in both governments are screwed. I mean, they're not doing the right thing for humanity. They're not doing the right thing for people. They didn't do the right thing by us for hiding the truth. They didn't do the right thing to the world and America for hiding the truth about what happened in 1967. This world would be completely different if they knew the truth then, instead of covering it up like they have.
Well, that's what the deputy director of the NSA said as well, right? Louis Tordea referred to the
Yes.
IDF inquiry as, yeah, it was a nice whitewash.
Yeah.
Right? That's
Absolutely.
and there were NSA servicemen on the boat with you guys who were listening to some of those conversations, and there's reports that it wasn't just yourselves as the Liberty that were there listening to communications, but there was also a plane up above that was listening to communications that happened to hear all of this going on as well. That happened to hear the communications between the Israeli jets and the Israeli HQ to say that there's an American ship there. And they were told in no uncertain terms to just follow their orders. They have their orders to blow up the ship. Um, we've got the Court of Inquiry who outright not redacted, but removed testimonies as well from the servicemen, from the Liberty. At every stage, there's this giant cover up. And you wonder, you have to ask yourself, what is so important to these people that they're willing to sacrifice their own in order to get what done? Because that's the one thing we haven't addressed yet. What was the plan if the Liberty had sunk? Where was this all headed to?
Well, Sonny, there were SAC aircraft in the air from the United States with nuclear weapons. Even before we got attacked, they were headed to Cairo. So think about that.
I didn't realize it was before the attack that they'd been launched. I thought it was timed post jet.
No, we were within minutes of World War III if our ship sinks. Then they had to recall everybody. All the attack aircraft, all this stuff, they had to send them back because our ship didn't sink.
Why would this have triggered World War III? Wasn't Israel at war? How would that have resulted in World War III?
If our ship sinks, they're going to blame it on Egypt. Nasser, they hated Nasser's. LBJ hated Nasser. Lyndon Johnson, the snake he is, I hope he rots in his grave.
The US attacks Egypt. That triggers us into World War III.
Right. They just murdered 294 Americans in the high seas. And you think America wouldn't be screaming for blood? They'd been screaming for oceans of it. So Israel got what they wanted, all the land.
Because that's essentially what happened after the 6 Day War, right? Israel took up a whole bunch of new land. They managed to double the size of Israel as a result of that war. But I think one of the bits maybe that I was alluding to is the fact that had the US bombed Egypt, this was Egypt, Iran, Iraq, Syria, and a little bit of Lebanon that was involved in this war, the 5 nations that were against Israel, but they were backed by the Soviet Union. So this is where, and there were Soviet nuclear subs in the region as well. So this is where what you're saying would have led to nuclear war, which wraps us up a little bit into where we are today almost. And it's what you were saying before we kicked off. There's the echoes of 1967 all over again as we sit here in 2024 as Israel once again initiates attacks on other foreign nations, expecting support from the US and the UK as well, and the EU and other nation states, especially Germany. As Israel counts on everybody else's support to start World War III all over again.
It certainly appears to be that way. It's 1967 all over again, except on steroids.
And we can see it this time too. Social media allows us to see it. It allows us to share that this is happening real time.
Absolutely. Look at all the ships in the Med, American ships and others. As you mentioned, the Russians are there, probably the Chinese too. Who knows?
I think what's really important here is what you said earlier. You're not anti-Jewish. That's something that you guys have been labeled with repeatedly as survivors of the Liberty attack. You guys have been called Nazis. You guys have been called anti-Semites. You guys have been called racist, bigots, you name it, everything under the sun. But that's not what this is about, is it? That's not in the slightest what you guys are going on about. Is what does it mean to you guys who are advocating for truth and transparency, and at every turn you're rebutted with complete and utter nonsense, which is only there to stifle the conversation, to stop you guys from being able to talk about it. Because as soon as people hear the word anti-Semite, it's, gotta stop, can't talk now.
I'm speaking for the organization as president. We're not anti-Jewish. We're not anti-black. We're not, I can go down the list. The point being is a foreign government attacked us and got by with cold-blooded murder. The people in Israel at that time and the people that live in Israel now, it's not them we have a problem with. It's the governments that constantly get by with this stuff, costing American lives, lives around the world that could have been saved. We're not here for that. We're here to tell you the truth. And yeah, we've been called anti-Semites, Jew haters, and Nazi, and every other thing just for telling the truth. We didn't kill anybody. The IDF did all the killing. And the head guy that time was Levi Eskell, along with LBJ. They colluded to murder us and start World War III. That's how crooked governments are. Nothing's changed in the last 57 years, especially with this administration.
What do you mean by that? Nothing's changed.
We're being led around the nose, led by the nose by a foreign government. Here in America, did you hear about Tom Massey saying that all the politicians have an AIPAC buddy with them?
Yeah.
So they run everything by Israel before they lift a finger.
Before any moves are made, AIPAC get to have a whisper in the ear, like an earwig.
Right. And they're the people that with the ADL that say we're a bunch of nuts and we're just out for revenge because we're pissed off. Yeah, we're pissed off, but we're not out for revenge. We're out to tell the truth. The truth will set you free, and that's what I'm here for. That's why I'm on your show right now, Sonny. The people's got to wake up. The USS Liberty is the spearhead of the truth to break this unholy, ungodly bond with the Zionist state.
They've done their best to drag America into multiple wars to get America to do their bidding in multiple different ways. I mean, even before this incident happened with the Liberty, Mir Amit and Robert McNamara were meeting in the USA. Mir Amit was at that point in time, the global head of Mossad operations. What would he be doing in the USA? Oh, and their conversation was about whether or not the USA would back Israel if they made the first blow. That's what him and McNamara were talking about shortly before you guys seemed to befall this unfortunate set of circumstances. But like you say, you're just here as a canary in the coal mine as to what's already occurred, as to what has already occurred back in 1967. But as I mentioned to you before we went live, you're almost like a cat with 9 lives. As the next ship that you were on was the Maddox. What happened then? Because there was another incident there, right?
Right. Now, I got on the Maddox after the USS Liberty. I went back in the Navy. To be honest with you, I didn't have a job. I had a little baby and a wife, and I had responsibilities I had to take care of. So I joined up for another 2 years. I didn't want to, but I had to. I mean,
So you re-enlisted.
yeah, I did for 2 years. And I get transferred from the East Coast to the West Coast to the USS Maddox, DD 731. It was a ship that supposedly got attacked by Chinese forces or the Viet Cong in 1967, or see, what was it, 1964, something like that, which started Vietnam. But there were still some of the guys that was aboard that ship when I got there that said, "Hey, that was all BS, man. That never happened." I mean, they heard about the Liberty, and I told them, but that's where people go. I mean, look at it was almost 58 or over 58,000 Americans died in that stupid war. Johnson sent him to, and look at how many Vietnamese were killed. Uh, I mean, it's just war after war. And Matilda Krim was in June the 7th. She was former Ergon. She was in the White House with her buddy Lyndon Johnson when we got attacked.
I had no idea. For those that are unfamiliar, the Ergun were actually a terrorist group operating for what would become the state of Israel before Israel was a nation state, and were then absorbed into the IDF. So there was a recognized known former terrorist kicking back in the White House with the President of the United States the day before you guys got attacked.
Absolutely. Matilda Krim and her husband were great friends of Lyndon Johnson. They bought a 300-acre or so ranch right next to him.
Jeez.
Oh, yeah.
It baffles the mind just how deep this goes, and at every twist and turn, there's just more to uncover, more dastardly behavior by those in power that is supposed to be looking out for yours and my best interests. You and I, we've benefited greatly. I grew up in the UK, born and raised. I have benefited greatly from the fact that the US and the UK have been superpowers and super buddies over the years. I'd be remiss if I said otherwise. But the power that our nations have has come at great cost. As you know yourself, the Gulf of Tonkin, the USS Liberty. I shudder to think how many more false flag operations have been committed and subsequent wars have been started in our names.
Well, all of them, as far as I'm concerned. But
Fair.
yeah, look at the USS Pueblo. It got attacked by North Korea. They killed one sailor and captured the ship and imprisoned these guys for, I think it was a couple years in horrible conditions, and they beat them and everything else. And then they left. They got the men out finally, which they should have got them out immediately, but they didn't. So here's another ship, a spy ship. They left out there alone. And Captain Booker told me, he's dead now, but he told me, he says, "Phil, if I'd have known about the USS Liberty, I'd never got my ship in that position when they captured it." So that's how deep, talk about deep, deep, deep states. And there's deep states in every country. We know that, deeper
Oh,
than others.
absolutely. Uh, the unelected bureaucrats, the sort of stay behind network that it doesn't matter who's prime minister, who's president, those people are just figureheads in name only. They don't wield any real power, at least not so far as I'm concerned. These guys just, they get given their marching orders from others in charge. Even if we look at, I don't know what your thoughts are on Trump, inherently irrelevant, but to this point, during Trump's administration, he'd given orders, and on more than one occasion, the unelected bureaucrats had decided to go against his orders or decided to delay his orders. It's insane. It's the President of the United States, and people were going dead against the things that he'd asked for.
He was. It's the most outrageous thing what they've done to this guy. They impeached him twice. And before I go in, I will say this, Sonny. When the Abraham Accords came around, I thought, well, hey, if he can do this and we can get peace in the Middle East, I'm all for it, rather than have wars. But look what they've done to Trump. They impeached him several times. They've called him everything in the world. He's been to court. They're trying to bankrupt him. And then they're trying to keep him off the ballots in many states. Then they try to kill him. What else can they do to the guy?
It's election interference. It's meddling in the state of affairs of the whole of the United States. Had this been Russia doing the same thing, we would have already gone to war about it. But no, because it's the Biden administration, no problem. We'll do it twice over. Don't worry about it. Literally in the case of impeachment. But what you say with the Abraham Accords, I'm wholeheartedly with you. I live here in Amsterdam. I'm a physical therapist, and I get to see a multitude of different people from all walks of life. And I operate in a fairly affluent area, so I have a lot of expats as well. That's people from the US, people from Canada, the globe over. And oftentimes with people from the US, it's really funny that I advocate for Trump in only his foreign policy and nothing else. And the shock on people's faces when I say I'm 32 years old, and Donald Trump is the first president in my lifetime to not start any new wars. Not only did he not start any new wars, he was also actively attempting to both pull people out and to create some kind of relationship with what were known as enemies of the state, a la crossing the DMZ in North Korea, without any weapons, without any guards. So far as I'm concerned, that's someone who was attempting, at least in some way, shape, or form, to create some long-lasting peace. Now, I dug into the Abraham Accords, and I've got a few little bits and bobs about that personally, but that's my own little gripes here and there. In broad strokes, the crazy orange man was the most peaceful man in my lifetime, and that's insane.
Oh, hey, listen, it was mine too. I I didn't think I'd ever see it, but when he said he was going to do, he tried to do it with everything against him. His own people he hired were out to get him to begin with, and he had no idea. He took the word of certain politicians, and they wanted to deep six him. They wanted him out there quick, but he got a lot done. I hope he does good in the election. If not, uh, I think not only are our country's doomed, I think the world's doomed for war and poverty, depression.
What scares me more so is you've alluded to it a couple times, that we're on the precipice of World War III once more. We've both alluded to it at this point. But we don't actually know what could come of it. When we think about nuclear weapons are 80-year-old technology. The technologies that are now available, direct energy weapons and the sort, things that we don't even know about. No one knew about nukes before the first nuke was dropped in terms of the public. Yeah, everyone talks about walking around with a nuclear football. But what other weapons are there? These WMDs, actually, literally this time, not made up ones in Iraq. These WMDs that are there for the US to use. And I think if Trump doesn't win the next election, if Kamala wins with Hillary Clinton in her cabinet in some way, shape, or form, I think we're headed for another war for sure. And then we're headed for the WMDs being pulled out.
Absolutely, and the the depth of the technology that you're alluding to or talking about is unfathomable. We have no idea what these things can do. The destruction, pinpoint destruction, is frightening at all levels. And it's just not the United States that's got this stuff. I don't believe that for 1 second.
No, not at all. They've all got
You
them.
know, oh, of course.
It's
So it's awful.
it's what Biden alluded to with the wrong color roofs for the people of Maui and Hawaii, the direct energy weapons that were utilized there.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
You know, and we know there are other nations with this technology. God damn it, the US Navy has this technology on YouTube. You can literally pull up YouTube and type in direct energy weapons. You can see the US Navy using it there, point blank. If people think that if World War III kicks off, it's going to be just men and women on the battlefield, they're sorely mistaken with the drone technology and the other WMDs, direct energy weapons, etc. It baffles the mind. You spoke about the US going to bat for Israel, for the Zionist state. What do you mean when you say that? The Zionist state and the US being their lapdog?
What I mean is being a person that has felt the backhand of Israel. The Zionists are completely different, in my view, than most of the Jews around the world, including Israel. I don't believe in Zionism. I never have and I never will. Can I explain everything about it? No. But I do know one thing is evil. It's very evil.
I wholeheartedly agree. Has Have they ever attempted, other than the guy from Mossad, have they ever attempted to contact yourselves or your crewmates in some form of apology?
No. Apology was a mistaken identity, and they gave us $250 and told us to keep our mouth shut or else. So, no, I mean, apologies. People apologize all the time, but how do you apologize to somebody that you just tried to murder? And I point you out in a lineup, say that's the person that did it. And the jury comes back and says, no, they didn't. That's what the Board of Inquiry did.
Not only did they say no, they didn't, but no, they didn't because they said they didn't.
Yes, because they said they didn't. So justice is very blind or very open-eyed to this. They're going to follow who they want to follow, and it looks like Israel got the upper hand. They always have, as far as I'm concerned, especially since 1967. And I learned a whole lot about history after that fact.
It's since October 7th, I've been doing a lot of my digging in my history as well and found out a few more things that I wasn't so keen on. Wish I never found out.
I agree 100%.
It's one of
And, this is all over. People know this, but if I may end with this. The October 7th, and you know this probably better than anybody, Sonny. Israel has a barrier that you cannot get through. You could put a small kitten anywhere around where they have their security fences or sensors. They would know if a small kitten was there before anything ever happened. This is my view only, not the USS Liberty veterans. It's my view. I think this was orchestrated to happen to bring the war into Gaza and get rid of them. With that, I have to take my wife to dinner.
I can't believe you left us on such a cliffhanger. I've got so much to say on that. But no, I absolutely agree. A 7 hour window for them to do anything when they had helicopters ready and able to get up and go within 15 minutes. The fact that the Hannibal Protocol was executed, whereby Israeli soldiers are given carte blanche to shoot anything and everything that moves, whether it's Israeli or Hamas fighters, as it were. No, this was 100% a setup. It was 100% a ruse. And it's a shame we got onto this topic so late. But look, Phil, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I really cannot thank you enough for giving up your time to have a chat with us here on the open forum. And if people want to find out more about you guys, if people want to donate to yourselves, where can they do that? Or if people want to find out more about the USS Liberty in general?
Yeah, thanks, Sonny. Before I tell you that, thank you very much for having me on. It's my honor. Uh, I do this for a reason, and I have I'm a blessing from God to do this. And you know, we meet up because we're supposed to meet up. You're a young guy, and I'm an old dude. So, but we were meant to be here together, and I believe in that. But just go to usslibertyveterans.org, usslibertyveterans.org, and you could look up everything you want, check everything out. It's a wonderful website. In fact, we're building a new one now that's going to be really super into the tech. Now, I'm not a tech guy, but we got people that can do it,
Nice.
and it's going to be mind blowing. I'm going to tell you. So, uh, anytime you want me to come back again, I'd be glad to do it, Sonny. You're a good man, and I appreciate you all the way from Amsterdam to Colorado.